Hello, good morning, and welcome to episode number 9 of Golden Droplets. I'm taping this on Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas, everybody. I will be talking in this episode again about compositional data analysis. I will be showing you how I use the program CoDaPack, and we will work on a real example. Again, I will recommend you to get my book, Exploring Geological Data with WCAG, CoDaPack, and Insight. I will put a link in the description to Amazon.com where you can buy the book or the Kindle edition. It is an illustrated step-by-step guide, not only how to use CoDaPack, but also how to use WCAG, that is artificial intelligence, and inside a different way of graphically presenting your data. So for this webinar, we will be using our old data set. And again, you can download the data set from Mendeley. I will include also a link for the site. So let's go and check our data. So we are back at our data set. Before we can process our data with CoDaPack, we need to do some steps to prepare the table in order for CoDaPack to work. The most important addition is that we need to add here a new column, which I call the other, which is the result of this equation here, where we sum all the values of the trace elements and subtract that from 100%, which is the total amount of samples. So this is a very important step that we need to do, and this is the formula, because we're working on part per million. So if you have this in percentage, it will be 100 minus the sum of all these elements here. The second step is to organize the elements in accordance to the method that we're going to be using for interpreting the data. I usually arrange or group the elements in accordance to their genetical origin. And for that, we will be using these tables here. I put it here so you can consult it. All these elements are characteristic of precious metals. All these elements are characteristic of base metals, base metal with chalcophile indicators, high field strength elements, rare earth, platinum group, lithophilic, and major. So using this table, we organize the elements. For example, molybdenum and gold and vanadium, these three are from the oxide or the precious metal. Nickel, copper, zinc, lead, these are from base metals, etc. So, and I will later on explain why it's useful to organize them in this way. This is by when we're doing a process called IRR in CoDaPack. So once we have the data organized this way, you just copy it, you just paste it on a new table, and you save it as an XLS or as a CSV, not as a XLSS. CoDaPack sometimes opens, sometimes it cannot open XLSS. So it's easier to save it as XLS. So let's open CoDaPack. The first step will be to import the data. So you go to File, Import. As you see, you can import from R data if you have R, CSV or text, or XLX data. I will select XLX, and I will go to my folder and click Open. It will start reading from line number 1, which is the headers. If there are not available data, will be NA. We don't have not available data. We don't have below detection limit. took care of all this. Just click OK. And here is your data already in CoDaPack. The first things that I would recommend you to do is to go to Statistics and select Atypicality Index. You select all the elements, click on the first one, Shift, click on the last one, select all the elements, and click Accept. And these are the three samples, the 11, 12, and 16. The 11, 9, 12, and the 16, which are atypical, which means they are completely different from the rest of the data set. This is usually samples that are related to mineralized areas. So I will usually take the coordinates of these 3 points and plot it on a map and see what it has. The program also created a new column here, which is called atypicality, which is, goes from 100% to 0%. Okay, so these 3 samples are samples that are above 95% significance. You can see this is 100%. Like the 11th sample is something that is really, really big. So the next step will be to convert our data to open data. It is closed now, as I explained before. To do that, you click on Data, Transformations, and you have 3 options to transform the data: the ILR, the CLR, and the ILR. So let's go with the first one, ALR. For that, again, you select all your data, click on the first one, click on the last one, Other, Shift click, select, and Accept. And the computer already creates all the ALR transformations. Do the same for CLR. In the case of CLR, the only difference is that you don't need to include the other. So just from molybdenum to phosphorus, Shift click, select, and Accept. And again, you will have the transformation for the CLR. Now, to do the transformation from the ILR, this is the most complex methods. So you go Data, Transform, go to ILR, select everything, including the other, Shift, and here to the right is where you define how you're going to arrange or group the elements for this analysis. And this goes back to the same table that I have here, the grouping elements. So we want to group by these elements here. So we go back to our table, and we need to define this matrix manually. So we define manually. And what we do now is we will select the elements that are on each group. So we know that for the first one, molybdenum, gold, and vanadium are part of one group. So I select them, the 3. When I select the 3, I click Next. And then I will select a combination of whatever combination, the first 2 or the last 2, and then the other combination, because the only one that I am interested in is in the first one. Okay, so I will select, for example, this one and this one, click Next, and then this one, and click Next. Now I'm ready to group the second group. So I will be interested in, when I get all my ILR, I will be interested in column 1, column 4, etc. So these are the elements for the base metals. So these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I will select, it doesn't matter which ones. I just need to select, to leave one unselected in order to finish the group. So the third group, which will be thallium and silver. These two is also base metal, but chalcophilic association. I select them. Next, I select any one of them. Next. The other group will be, so we are the chrome, manganese, barium. This is the lithophilic elements. Chrome, manganese, and barium. Chrome, manganese, barium. Click next. Select, click next, select, click next. And the last group will be the major elements. So I select them. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. I do not select other. Next. Whatever. I just need to leave one unselected. Just to show you that can be whichever one not selected. It doesn't matter. And that's it. We have created our matrix. We click accept. You see the matrix here, and then we click accept. And now the computer generated also all the ELRs, but as I mentioned before, we are only interested in the first one, the fourth one, the seventh one, etc., the ones that correspond to the combination of these elements. So once you have the data in this way, you can just click File, Export the data to an Excel, and we would call it this open data. And you can go back to Excel and continue working with your normal statistical parameters, etc. But since we are here, I want to show you a couple of things, how you can work within CoDaPack. I did put the results, all the results that you're going to see there in the original table. So the first thing that we're going to see is the variation array. In order to do that, CoDaPack, statistics, you have compositional statistics or classical statistics. Okay, you can do both. Compositional statistics, you select all the elements. You detect you want the center, which is the average, the percentile, the variation array, etc., etc. You can also include the percentile. You click accept, and here you get, let me put this bigger and this smaller. You get the variation array, and again, those elements in blue, in blue colors like this one are the less important, in red are the most important. So this is another way of reducing the amount of elements. You can see that there is a good, very strong correlation between sodium and potassium and gold, and aluminum and gold, and sodium and potassium and lead. So this matrix here is very useful, and you can copy, transfer it from Excel. You just select the all, press Ctrl+C to copy, and then you go back to your Coda and you just press the Ctrl+V and you get your data. Then I just deleted the lower part and I did conditional formatting, and I get the same distribution. I just put it here from red to green. You can use any conditional formatting that you want. The next step will be the CLR biplot, which is another way to determine which elements are the most important in your data set. So we go back to our CoDaPack, go to graphics, CLR biplot, and we select all the elements. We don't need to select other, Shift, select. And we don't have groups, okay, but if you have groups, you can add here, accept. And this is the graphic. In this case, you can add the observation name, I mean the name of the samples. So now you see the samples. You can zoom in, zoom out, change the orientation of the axis, increase the covariance, and of course you can take a snapshot and then go back to our Excel and just paste it. Now, the way to interpret this, just very quickly, the lines that are close to each other are repetitive. What you're looking for are elements that are completely opposite. For example, here we have silver and sodium and potassium that are completely opposite. That means that they can provide good interpretation. So you look first for all the longest ones and the ones that are opposite the most to each other. So here's several combinations for this one and this one and this one, or this one and this one and this one. So you can select elements on different way. One of the way I do this, I just insert a circle and cover all the things so I can see which elements are above that circle, and it's easier to read. Let me show you quickly. Insert, shapes. I click Shift, and I make my circles. If I click Shift, the circle will be perfectly centered. So I cover it, and I see which elements are outside. Then I reduce, Shift again, Shift, reduce, and see which other elements now are important. So from this, we can determine that silver, nickel, manganese, barium, and sodium plus potassium manganese. These are two of the three ternary diagrams that will be very, very important. The next step is the principal component analysis. Very important method. So we go back, we can close this. So we go to statistics, to graphics, ternary analysis. So we said that it will be silver, sodium, potassium, and barium, I think it was. So this is the ternary diagram with the principal component analysis, and down here you get in the graph, in the body, you get the principal component analysis for that ternary diagram. You can also do the same thing for all the elements, and when you do that for all the elements, I just going to jump here. The only difference is that, as you can see, the principal component analysis, they give you the elements on the top and the principal component analysis as the rows and the elements of the column. So you need to copy this the same way. You select it all, you click Ctrl+C, but then when you're going to paste it on your Excel, you select Paste Transform, and you select it in this way. Now, once you have all the principal components selected, for example, what I do, I just go to the first one, and I will arrange the data from the biggest to the smallest, and I will select, give them color to the two biggest one and the two smallest one, and that gives me a coefficient. And of course, this coefficient in this case is related to gold, So it's good. Gold by zinc divided by aluminum plus divided by the sum of sodium and potassium. This one here, doing the same. We have silver and molybdenum down here, and barium and nickel up here. So this is probably more for the polymetallic one, etc. So how many of this? You see we have 18, but we only use 7. Why? Because you take these numbers here, this is a cumulative explanation, and you create this table. And when the tables start getting flat, that it means that it doesn't add more information, you stop there. So in our case, it was the PC7 here with 96% explained, because after that, almost everything is the same. So the last step of working within CoDaPack will be the balanced dendrogram, and this is beautiful. It's a very powerful method. You again select all the elements, and here we should do again the definition of the matrix manually, repeating what we did. Just to save some time, I will use the default partition that most of the time it corresponds very well with the one that we define manually. So if you are in a little bit of hurry, or you don't know how exactly your elements, how to combine your elements exactly, go with the default partition. It will work perfectly well. And you get here your dendrogram. And in this dendrogram, you get basically 3 groups that you can see here: 1, 2, and 3. The explanation of how to interpret the dendrograms is beyond this video. I probably will have a specific video or a text to explain you how we do this. So again, you get the snapshot, and you go back to your data, and you click, and that's it. You have it here. So this is basically the most important thing that you can do with CoDaPack. And right now you have your data already open. So what you do, you open file, open your open data. And you have here all the result. So I'm going to stop now to give you a chance to train with the thing. And on my next episode, I will show you how to arrange this data and how to continue processing the data using normal Excel. Again, thank you for hearing. Remember to subscribe to our geology channel in YouTube. Merry Christmas to everybody, and a very prosperous new year.